Yo, what's good, everybody? Jay What Ifs. Well, I'm here for my first video, like an internship. No, I'm playing. But today we're going to be doing, well, you guys read the title. I just say, let's get into it with what if Deku had Asta's five-leaf clover grimoire. So our story starts off from the POV of a young woman with green hair. And we learn to, and we don't know her name, but all we see is that she has a levitation ability. And she levitates this little basket that's carrying this little boy with green hair and green eyes. But where is he going? He's flying fast. But it's to a very small village out on the outskirts of everywhere. So he gets placed at a church where he gets raised by a father and a sister of the church. And we then see flashbacks back to the green-haired lady, and she was super injured from a massive villain attack on her village, and she took him all the way across a border to another smaller village and put him on the church doorstep with her levitation, and then ran super far away so he wouldn't be found. And then we find out that it wasn't just a villain attack, it was a villain known as All for One. And we just see Izuku grow up. The first 6 years of his life, he didn't know anything about his past. The father and the sister didn't know anything either, so they couldn't help him. But they taught him everything he knew. Taught him everything in the sense of math, history, science, and English, and Japanese, of course, because that's where this is going to be placed at. But I'm going off the U.S. schooling systems because that's what I know. So if you're confused, just bear with me for a second. So he's around the age of 6, and at this age he starts elementary school, and it's at a small village, so he already pretty much knows everything. So every single day he leaves the church every night and he sneaks out every single day. The father and the sister know, of course, but they're thinking that he's an orphan, he's just wanting to go grief. And grief, what he does, he trains every single night for 4 hours straight, lacking sleep. He's just praying that he gets a good quirk. And this is at age 6. And he realizes that he doesn't have a quirk yet. He should have had it 2 years ago. So the father and the sister decide to take him to a doctor, and the doctor says, "Sorry, kid, it's not going to happen." And we learn to find out that this little boy, his name is Izuku, and his number one dream is to go to a hero school and be a number one hero and bring peace to the entire world, so that way no matter if you're a poor person from a small village or the highest leader, no matter what, anything is possible. So every single night he goes and he trains his body, and he trains his body for 4 years straight, 4 hours a day, every single day for 4 years. And we get 10-year-old Izuku, and he keeps going to elementary school, and he trains even harder because it keeps weighing down on him that he's quirkless. He gets mocked at school by many of his classmates because of this, and he trains even harder and harder for the next 5 years. He turns 15, and he really wants to go to UA High. So he applies, and we learn to find out that he has 10 months to be training. During the first month, half a month in of training, he wanders super far into the forest. And he was like, okay, fine. So he keeps doing his push-ups, he does squats, he keeps running and running and running and running. And he keeps just working out, running, working out. And he realizes that he's lost and he doesn't know his way out. So he keeps going, and he's going further in. And he's about to get to a strong region of the most powerful creatures. The creatures that he didn't even know existed. And he's about it, and he sees one, and he's just petrified with fear. He's so lucky that monster doesn't see him, he backs away slowly. He backs away even slowly, or so that way the monster has no chance of seeing him. And he's lost one more time, and he has no idea where he is. He finds a massive skull, and he goes in the mouth of it, and he sees a really old book. And he picks it up and thinks nothing of it. So he puts it in his backpack that had all of his supplies, and he just keeps going and he keeps training. But suddenly he's ambushed by a wolf that is double his size, and he gets really scared, and he thinks that it might want the book. Maybe it smells different. So he pulls the book out because his backpack is empty other than this book. So what else could this wolf want? He pulls it out, and suddenly the book starts to glow, and he sees a dark handle, and he pulls it out, and it's a massive greatsword. And he doesn't know the name of this, but there's just something in his head saying this is a demon slayer sword. He swings it around a few times, and the wolf jumps at him, and he swings, and the wolf is dead. It passed in one swing. This sword must be crazy. Little did we know that wolf was actually a quirk. It was part of someone's quirk that they used to protect the forest. So for the next 5 months, he does standard strength training of swinging his sword up and down, push-ups, sit-ups, squats, running, and he finally is about to make it back to the village. He knows where he is again, but suddenly he runs into a fellow traveler, and he's like, maybe I should go talk to him. And we don't know this, but the guy's name is Stain, and this is before he gets into the hero killing. And Deku, what he does is he goes into his backpack. He's like, hello, sir. I noticed that you're carrying around a sword. I'd propose a trade, maybe for a few months, maybe if I offered to help you out getting food and you could help me train. And Stain gladly takes this offer. He hasn't eaten in a week. He is starving, and this is pretty obvious to Izuku. So he smiles, and they begin training immediately. And Stain trains him in the way of wielding a sword, the slash mechanisms, and this doesn't occur to Izuku until after. Stain was a master at using a sword, and Izuku picked it up within 5 months. Stain's 17 years of trying to master a sword, and Izuku picked it up in 5 months. And finally Stain says, okay, there's only one last thing I can teach you. It's this little thing called ki. It's a little bit from where I come from. And he's like, okay, cool, I want to know, I want to learn it. And Stain says, I'm not sure you're ready, so you're going to have to go into the forest again and try and beat 3 monsters. And Deku is like, yes sir. So he runs out into the forest trying to find 3 huge monsters that he can take down with just his swordsmanship. He finds the first one, and it's triple his size, and Izuku is just petrified and feared. It's the monster that he saw whenever he was 5 months younger. I know that was probably weird to say, and Izuku, he grips the handle of his sword, and he's like, I got this. And he runs, and he jumps, and he leaps, and he slashes at the beast. And the beast falls. It was part of someone's quirk as well. And Izuku's like, wait, what is this sword? And he can feel the anti-quirk, like the anti-quirk ability running through it, and it is just amazing him. And what he does is he thinks, whoa, this is so cool. So he goes off and he fights 2 more monsters equal to the size, and he takes them down with ease. Except on his way back, he runs into a 4th. But this time it's like no other. It's not just any regular quirked monster. It's just a monster, and it's just insane to Izuku, and he looks up at it, and he keeps looking up. But nothing. It's still not stopping. Who is this? And the monster, instead of stomping on him because he was just so giant, I think you guys know who I'm referring to, but he instead guides him out of the forest with the 3 monsters in hand. And he gives Izuku a wink, and he walks out, and he walks away. With this, Izuku thinks, whoa, that is so strange. But he goes to Stain, where he was staying at, in the giant skull, and he hands him the 3 monsters like, okay, I'm ready to learn. And Stain says, okay, I see that you're part through it. And for another month, like, him learning how to wield a sword, it was 4 months' time. I know I said 5, but we're gonna say 4. And it takes Izuku a month to learn ki and all of its techniques, and like being like sensing and knowing, and you know, this in turn actually heightens his senses, which he already had from being out in the wilderness for so long, and he had an extreme battle IQ because of this, and an extreme intuition, and he was also a master of wielding swords. So he thanks Stain, and for the rest of the 4 months, he just keeps training and training and training. He just trains for. Or wait, no. So there was 5 months of him standard strength training with the sword, and then 5 months with Stain. He makes his way back to the church, and he says goodbye, sister, goodbye, father, and he goes back. And he makes his trek all the way up to, hold on, I'm going to hope I don't butcher this, Mustafa, Japan, where UA is set. On his trek, he runs into many monsters, of course, and he takes them down with simple ease. And sorry for the little jump cut right there, I wanted to get some water. So, and he gets to Mustafa, and he realizes, oh crap, I just realized, I'm not going to want to make a week-long journey every single day to make it to the church. So he decides that he wants to try and buy an apartment there. So he goes to a nearby realtor, and he learns that the apartments are way too expensive for him to maintain and be able to live there. Instead, what he does is he finds a super cheap motel, and he lives there. And he offers the store owner that to work for him for however long he needs to, and just so that way he can keep living there. And the motel owner's like, okay, sure, go for it. But Izuku also picks up 2 other jobs, a pizza delivery, and he just beats up petty thieves and hopes for a little bit of a reward from a sweet old lady, if you know what I mean. But no, he rarely ever gets one, because that's not why he's doing it. He's doing it to help, because he truly enjoys helping people. So anyways, the week of the entrance exams go on. After a week long of grueling work, he's super tired, but he gets to the entrance exam and he feels super pumped up again, just like our main character does. And I don't see him being super clumsy and tripping and meeting Uraraka. So instead, Deku walks in, and I don't see him having the muttering scene anyway either. So he barely scrapes by on this written exam. He's nowhere near stupid, but the level of intellect that you need to pass the written exam is a lot. But then it's a physical exam, and he's like, alright, yes, something I can actually compete with. And he's allowed to use his grimoire, or his book that has his sword, which we know is a grimoire. I'll just call it grimoire, because he just gives it that name because it's like, oh, it's a familiar book. We're just gonna say that he knew that. So he goes to the entrance exams gate, and he's around nobody he really knows, and everybody seems so stuck up and popular. And he's like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna go to the front to try and get ahead. And I don't see Ida trying to stop him, because, you know, I mean, what else? What is a little short kid gonna do? Because Izuku is fairly short in this little time slot. I'm not gonna make him too tall, because he wasn't in the original, and Asta wasn't either. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Present Mike says, go, 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 go! There's no countdown in a real hero battle! So they all go rushing forward, and Izuku's obviously the first one. And he's kind of matching Ida's speed, not Recipro Burst Ida. So he's like, okay, fine. Which impresses Ida, but he doesn't really care. So Izuku whips out his Demon Slayer sword, and he just starts slashing and slashing and slashing. And he gets a good amount of points. Like, he gets over, I'm going to say he gets about let's see. I'm pretty sure Bakugo got 70 in the original, 71. So we're gonna say that he actually gets 90, 92, which is still a great amount. But I mean, didn't All Might get 120 or something? Something absurd. So Izuku's like, all right, cool. I think I'm chilling now, and he's about to just go chill on top of a building and wait for the exam to be over. And Nezu's like, I want to test these groups a little bit more. And all the pro heroes are like, Nezu and your old tricks. So Nezu presses the button in a dramatic scene, and the 0-pointer is released, and Izuku's like, I guess I'm just gonna ignore it, and he goes up on top of a building. But whenever he goes on top of this building, he sees a girl who looks kind of familiar, and he thinks back on it. The girl, she was at the start of the entrance exam, and she looked really nervous. So he jumps down, and he's like, all right, fine. And he jumps down, and he walks over there with a little nonchalant, and he's like, hey, you good? You need help? And she's like, yeah, my ankle really hurts. So he pulls the rubble off with ease, and he puts her on top of his back, and he's like, all right, I don't really have much to do with this thing because it's, massive. So he runs away with Uraraka. And the test is called, and he's just like, well, here you go. And he hands Uraraka to Recovery Girl. And with the simpletonness of Asta, he walks away, with a little smile towards Uraraka, and he walks away. And Uraraka is blushing. She realizes that she was just carried by a guy with extremely, his muscles are big. You can feel them through his shirt. And she's like, whoa, his muscles were so big, and she just starts immediately blushing. Recovery Girl being like, I can fix a lot of injuries, but I can't fix one on the heartstrings, in a classic, comedic fashion. So then we see Izuku, and he's like, all right, cool. And he goes back to his little motel room, and he works for another week or two, when he finally gets a letter from UA, and he's like, okay, let's see if he's not nervous about it at all. He was keeping track of his points, and he knows that he's going to get in. He opens his letter, and to no one's surprise, he gets in, of course. And he realizes, oh, I was not expecting to get this. And he actually gets into class 1A. He was expecting to maybe get 1B at most, but 1A, he's going to take it, Every possibility he can take in order to get to the top. The next day, classes start, and Izuku is feeling good. He has his uniform on. He still looks buff in that. So, and he has a little. No, we won't give him a bandana. We'll just say he has his little yellow scarf on from the vigilante, and he looks tough. We're just gonna say that. And he walks into school, and he just quietly sits down. I'm not making him an Asta reincarnation. Because of Izuku's childhood and having to live out in the forest, I think he's going to be pretty antisocial. And that's what I want. And, the most interaction that he had was with Stain. And we all know how that turned out. And, you know what? I feel like Togoyami would go over there and be like, I really like your style. And Izuku would just be like, thanks, you too. And they just become friends from that. And Togoyami sits next to him, and they both just are quiet together. And he notices he's sitting across the classroom, and he notices two really loud people, a girl with white hair and a boy with blonde hair. And he's like, and he looks over at Togoyami, he's like, who are they? And Togoyami says, the boy with blonde hair, his name is Bakugo. He has an explosion quirk, that's really all I know, and I know that he's hot-headed, clearly. The girl I don't know too much about, but given her appearance, I would say that her quirk has to be something to do with rabbits. And then we know her name is Mirko. Of course, her name is Rumi Usugami, I think, but I'm just going to call her Mirko for my sake. So Izuku's like, she's pretty cute. Not going to worry about it, though. Because he thought the same thing about Uraraka. He was like, yeah, she's pretty cute, but I'm not really focused on that. He's focused on the sister at the church, and he's like, man, I really like her. And he tells Togoyami this, and he's like, she's a woman of the cloth, right? You can't marry her. and he like does the classic like anime cry. I know. And Tokoyami's like, dude. And they both share a laugh, and Izuku then says, "Oh yeah, who's that dude sleeping behind the desk?" And Tokoyami is like, "Wait, what?" And all of a sudden, Aizawa just wakes up and is like, "Ugh, would you quiet down?" Everybody just goes to their seats and shuts up and is like, "Wait, who are you?" And he's like, "I'm your teacher. Now get these on and go outside." He puts a stack of gym uniforms on his desk, and he's like, "Meet me outside in 10 minutes." So all the guys go to the locker room, and Tokoyami's like, "Dude, you're ripped, like shredded." And Kirishima looks over at Izuku and is like, "Yo, you are shredded, dude. I aspire to be like you. You're so manly." And Izuku's just like, "Thanks. I've just been training since I was like 6 years old." And everybody in the locker room, even Bakugo is like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Why do you think I'm so ripped? I just really like working out." And Kirishima's like, "That's so manly." And with that being said, everybody goes outside. And Izuku's just like, whatever. All of a sudden, he gets tossed a little baseball by Aizawa, and he's like, "Look, kid, you got first place on the entrance exam. Throw this ball as far as you can while staying in the circle. Anything goes." And he's like, "Anything?" And Aizawa's like, "Yes, anything." "Anything? Yes, anything." And it's like the Cat in the Hat scene, you know what I'm saying? Only the real ones would get that. So anyways, Deku steps in the circle and he's like, "All right, well, I guess I'm gonna do this." He tosses the baseball up super high. He yanks out the Demon Slayer sword. He puts his leg up and he goes wham and hits that baseball bat and it goes flying. I'm actually gonna say he gets a good 700 meters on the dot. And everybody's like, "Whoa, this is gonna be so much fun." And Aizawa's like, Izuku looks back and is like, "You idiots, no." And Aizawa's like, "You think this is gonna be fun? Okay, let's put a little wager on it. Whoever's in last place gets expelled." And everybody's like, "What? You can't be doing that." And Aizawa's like, They gave me permission to rule my classroom however I want and however I see fit. So with that being said, do as I say." And I see all of the exams working on Izuku's favor, except for maybe the box jump. I feel like he would pretty much almost clear it, but he wouldn't just do it. And I feel like he would get around the same score as Ida did, maybe a little bit slower during the race. So I would say Izuku would get a really first place. Then I would say Momo would get second, Todoroki would get third, Bakugo would get fourth, and Ida would get fifth. And Bakugo is fuming. He's like, "What? I couldn't get any higher than fourth?" But we then find out who's in last place. And it's none other than Mineta. And everybody's like, "No." And Mineta's like, gets on his knees and he's like, "No, why, cruel world, why?" And he starts groveling at Aizawa's feet. And Aizawa's just like, "Calm down. I'm not actually going to expel you unless you give me a reason to." And he his eyes get red and his hair starts floating and he just stares at Mineta and he's like, "Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir." So he goes back to the class and he's just shivering and everybody's just like, "Okay, bro, calm down. It's not that big of a deal." So everybody goes back up to class and they proceed with their lessons for the day. And a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and they just do regular old lessons, basic math, English or Spanish. No, I'm kidding. But they do basic, English, math, history, science, all the basics. Until one fateful day, when a certain somebody busts in through the door.